Hello everybody, so in today's video I'm on the trail that connects Nelly Bay with Arcadia. I've done this trail a few weeks ago, but I went from Arcadia halfway then went back. This time I parked at Nelly Bay and I'm going halfway up the mountain then coming back down because last time I was up there I noticed a spot that was pretty nice. There was a nice rock on top of the mountain which I'm going to try and climb up tonight and hopefully get a photograph for sunset. Now that it's very cloudy today, which is a bit unfortunate because I'm not sure if there's going to be a nice sunset or not, but I'm actually not too upset about that because for about the last 5 weeks we've had nothing but pretty much clear skies and sunshine and some clouds as well, but not thick clouds like today. So I'm excited to go out, take some landscapes with some different weather that we've been normally having. So it should be something a little bit more unique. Well, it'll take about an hour and a half to get up to the top. Pretty steep ascent, but not too bad for climbing. So let's get to it. So one of the bad things though about it being cloudy like this is that the clouds trap in all the humidity. So even though the sun's not shining and it's not really too hot, it's not even 80 degrees Fahrenheit, but still it's about at 80% humidity. So hiking up this mountain here, I'm just dripping with sweat, which is a bit uncomfortable, but it's just how life is up here in the tropics. And eventually you get used to just always sweating. But it's still very uncomfortable no matter how used to it you are. So I do really enjoy living on Magnetic Island. It's almost a photographer's paradise. We've got pristine beaches to do seascapes. There's some nice mountains in the middle. Not the most dramatic mountains, but still picturesque mountains nonetheless. And over half the island is a national park. And the island's relatively small, only about 10 miles by 10 miles, which it makes it nice because it's easy to get anywhere on the island and you don't have a far drive at all. But yeah, just so many opportunities to do so much photography, and then wildlife too with the koalas and wallabies and different types of birds. So it's a real unique spot. So the spot I'm trying to get to take a photograph tonight is right up there. I just need to try and find a way to get up there, but it looks like it has nice views to the north and south, nice unobstructed views without too many trees in the way. So hopefully it'll be a good spot for sunset. And also the sun's starting to come out as well, so might get a really nice sunset tonight. Alright, now I just need to try and find a way to get up there. Unfortunately, this spot here isn't what I thought it would be. I thought I'd be up high enough to have clear views, but I'm obviously not. And the peak's just a little bit too high for me to want to climb up tonight, and a little bit too far as well. And yeah, the views are spectacular, but just really no clear composition, and the sun's going to be setting right behind the mountains, so all the mountains will be in shade, so it just won't be too pleasing of an image. So I think I'm going to climb back down and then head up the trail more and try and look for something else. So I ended up finding this real nice viewpoint here. We got Horseshoe-Bay down there by the ocean, and some mountains to the left, and then some mountains to the right as well. I haven't been able to find a clear composition, but I do want to try and get Horseshoe-Bay in the image, and the whole bay, so you can see the horseshoe shape. Yeah, so I guess I'm just going to get my camera out, move around with it, and then try and find a composition. Still have about an hour before sunset, so still have plenty of time. So I'll just find something that I hope will work. So I managed to find a location that I'm pretty happy with. I'm going to set up on that rock right through there, and it's got a good view of the Horseshoe-Bay and everything in between, and I'll be able to use a boulder as my foreground subject. So I'm just going to climb on over there, get all set up, because it's kind of a little bit of a squeeze, so let's go. So I've got my camera all set up here. I've got it on this rock, and then for my composition, I've got this boulder in the foreground, then the midground's just Horseshoe-Bay, and then the Horseshoe-Bay in the sky in the background, and I'm framing it so you can see the whole horseshoe in the top of the image before it hits the sky. And right now I'm taking some pictures because the sun's about to go behind the mountains behind me there. So I'm taking some pictures while we have some sunlight on the scene, just in case I want to do a time blend later. So what I'm doing is I'm also focus stacking. So I'm focusing on the nearest point to the lens, and I'm going to take an image. And I'm also going to focus right on the boulder and take an image. And I'm also going to focus on the midground and take an image. I'm overexposing just a little bit because I want to get all that color and detail, and I'm watching my histogram as well, so I'm not blowing out any of the shadows, but the sky is getting blown out, but that's alright because if I decide to do a time blend, I'll replace it with the sky from sunset. But we do have a little bit of clouds. It's cleared up a lot since I started hiking, but we do have some nice clouds in the sky, so hopefully they'll get really lit up when the sun actually sets in a few minutes here. So yep, I'm just shooting at 1/15 a second, ISO 100, f11, and that's giving me sharpness throughout the scene, and then just focus stacking for the foreground. Alright, so now I'm just going to keep waiting until that sun goes down, until the sky lights up. So it's looking pretty promising with some clouds blowing in too from the west, so hopefully it should be a nice sunset. Yeah, and the tripod's kind of on a precarious location here. As you can see, the one leg leg's just barely on the edge of the rock, but that's what it took to get the camera balanced and to get it in the right position that I wanted. So I've decided to put a 10-stop filter on the camera because the sun's just about to go down and we're getting some nice light on the rock and some nice light in the clouds up above. So I'm going to use the filter so hopefully get a little bit of motion in the clouds. Alright, so it's at a 30-second exposure, f11 ISO 100. I don't have to use the shutter release because it's not over 30 seconds, so I don't have to put it in bulb mode. And it's turned out to looking pretty good. I'm actually kind of getting a little bit happy with the composition. Alright, so now the sun's gone behind the mountain, so we still have 20 more minutes until actual sunset. So I'm still going to wait and leave the camera in the same position, again, just in case I decide to do a time blend later. Because it looks like those clouds that were just now in my scene are blowing away, so it looks like we might not have any clouds in the scene. But some more are blowing in from the east, so I might get lucky. So I will hang around for 20 minutes and we'll see what the sky does. And I am going to take off my 10-stop filter, just because after now I'll have to use my shutter release, and I kind of am feeling a bit lazy and don't want to mess around with that tonight, especially if there's not going to be a lot of clouds in the sky. The filter won't really do anything or add any effect. So I'm starting to take some images of just the sky that I might blend in later. What I'm doing is I'm making sure to underexpose for the sky, and I'm making sure I'm not blowing out any of my highlights. That way I'll be able to have all the information later. And I'll still up the exposure when I combine them in Photoshop to make the image look more natural. But I want to make sure now that I'm underexposing it in camera just so I have all that detail and nothing's blown out to begin with. So I'm just shooting at 1/13 of a second, f9 ISO 100. Then I'm focusing on the sky in the background. But it's a bit unfortunate because we have some nice clouds to the east, but they're not going to make it into my scene. They're just on the outside of my scene. But they are lighting up with some nice colors, but still on the horizon there's some nice pinkish, purplish, yellowish hues. So that's still looking pretty pleasing. I think it's looking pretty good. And then as I composed my shot, I made sure to be very careful to watch the edges of my screen, because I have this tree over here to the left and this one over here to the right, and I didn't want any of those branches protruding into what I'm shooting, so I had to be very careful with that. So you always want to be careful when you're shooting landscape images on what's on the outside of your screen, because it could add distracting elements and things that you just don't want in there. So I made sure to frame it just right, so I'm cutting off both these branches. Even though they're close to me, since I'm shooting real wide, it could be a problem. And that's why I have my tripod just barely hanging over the edge there. So that's all for today's video. I ended up coming away with an okay image that I'm kind of happy with. Even though my plans changed and the original location I was planning on going today didn't really work out, I was still able to find this location and it turned out pretty much for the best, maybe a little bit better, but who knows. So thank you very much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you later.